Stocks are not the only type of investment that can be traded with the margin account. In this video, we'll discover two other common trades that are done on margin: future margins and foreign currencies. Buyers and sellers enter into future contracts to hedge against the risk of price fluctuations. Investors, however, buy and sell these future contracts in order to make a profit. Let's say a farmer today is able to sell 50 bushel of wheat for $250, but he fears that the price will drop 3 months from now. To hedge this risk, he could enter into a future contract to receive $250 in 3 months, regardless of the price at which he actually sells the wheat. This contract is then traded in the future market and catches the attention of our dear investor, Professor Jassim. Professor Jassim is interested in buying this contract because he believes that the price of wheat will actually go up. If so, he may then sell the contract later at a higher price. So how does it work? To begin with, Professor Jassim must put an initial deposit into a margin account, which is a future margin. This margin is used to debit any day-to-day losses in relation to the future contract. The initial margin required to enter into new future contract is normally 5 to 10% of the total value of the goods to be exchanged in the future contract. In this case, Professor Jassim decides to buy 160 sacks of 50 bushel of wheat for a total of $40,000. If his margin requirement is 5%, he only needs to deposit $2,000 into his margin account. The maintenance margin is set at $1,500. 1 month later, the price of wheat goes up to $5.25 and brings the value of the contract to $42,000. If he believes that the price will go down in the next few months, he could sell the contract for $42,000 and keep the profit of $2,000. He will effectively double his initial investment of $2,000. As you can see, trading on future margin is highly leveraged. Suppose that instead of an increasing, the price decreases by 10 cents, which will bring the value of the contract to $39,200. Professor Jassim's margin account therefore decreases to $1,200. Since his margin account is now below the maintenance margin of $1,500, he must put back $800 into his account to maintain a balance of $2,000, which is to match with his initial deposit or otherwise sell the contract at the price of $39,200, representing a loss of $800. Now, let's turn to trade on foreign currencies. All of the world's foreign currencies are traded in the forex market. The forex market is the largest, most liquid market in the world. There's no central exchange as it trades over the counter. Forex trading allows investors to buy and sell currencies similar to stock tradings, but with the following exception. The investors can access to the international market to trade 24 hours a day, 5 days a week. There is a great incentive to trade currencies with a margin account, because the currency market is so stable and the fluctuations are so small. Investors must control a huge amount of money in order to make a sizable profit. For that reason, trading currencies often requires a 1% margin. Let's suppose Professor Jassim has been planning to go to Vancouver with his significant other. He needs to beat a bit more Canadian dollars. His brilliant idea is to trade in the forex market. Assume each lot of CAD/USD is 100 Canadian dollars. To be clarified, CAD/USD means how many US dollars needed to trade 1 Canadian dollar. If Professor Jassim decides to buy 20 lots of this pair, his initial margin will therefore be 2,000 Canadian dollars. If the margin requirement is 1%, it will allow him to trade up to 200,000 Canadian dollars. The portion borrowed from the broker will be $198,000. If this exchange rate is 0.77 at this moment, Professor Jassim's 20 lots will be worth $154,000 US dollars. If the rate goes down to 0.76, the US dollar will be worth 202,632 Canadian dollars now, which has a 2,632 profit. Let's say the exchange rate increased. His US dollar on hand will worth less Canadian dollars. Until the accumulated losses eat up all the margin of $500, which is the difference between the initial margin and the maintenance margin, will trigger a margin call. He will have to put more money to raise his balance back up to his initial margin of $2,000. So, at what exchange rate will Professor Jassim be margin called? If we use the formula indicated before, we'll get a rate of 0.7778. In other words, a small increase of 0.0078 is big enough to trigger a margin call. As you now realize, investors has to be extremely careful when working on a 1% margin account, since a currency change of less than a penny can cause you to lose your entire investment. But if the opposite is true, you can stand to make $1,000 from an increase of 1 penny. Both future margin and forex margin are clear examples of how margin trading can magnify the losses as well as the gains.